Yo, what is going on, guys? We just got some pretty big news from the Pokemon Company, a day or two ago, so I want to cover it here on the channel, and that is rotation. We finally have a rotation announcement. Rotation will be coming in April 14th, 2023. Now, we should have actually already had rotation, so it's a little, our rotations have already happened in August or September, so we're a little behind on our typical rotation period, but I don't think it's going to affect the standard format all that much if we wait a few extra months. Now, for those of you who don't know what rotation is something that happens every year or so, where a certain amount of cards from the standard format are made illegal and no longer legal in the standard format, and they rotate out of the card pool. Of course, those cards are still legal for play in the expanded format, just no longer in the standard format. Now, Michael, how do I know which cards are rotating? Well, the simple answer is there's a regulation mark in the bottom left-hand corner of every single Pokemon card is a letter of the alphabet, and the cards that are marked regulation mark D are now the cards that are going to become illegal for play in April. Regulation mark E and F are still legal for play. The best way to explain it is most cards from Sword and Shield base set to Battle Styles or the set before Battle Styles, those cards will no longer be legal. Battle Styles on should be legal. Most cards should and will be legal for play. So today I wanted to go over a lot of the big cards that we're losing in the standard format, because like I said, this is gonna completely change the way we build our deck, and it's gonna definitely shape the meta, and it's gonna shake it up because we're no longer gonna have access to a lot of cards that are in all of our decks. So yeah, let's hop into it and let's see a lot of the cards that we're gonna be losing from the standard format. Alright, so these are the cards that are going to be rotating. I've comprised a big list of a lot of the cards that are going to be leaving the format. I'm going to go through them relatively quickly because I don't have all day to go over all these cards super in depth. We are losing Oranguru, saw a lot of play at the start of its lifetime with ADP, and currently sees play in decks like Lost Box and Lugia, as well as Kyurem. Kyurem utilized it to great with a lot of it was very effective in utilizing Oranguru. So definitely a pretty solid card that we're losing. There are still cards like Switching Cups, which have the same effect as Primate Wisdom, so we still have ways to stack the top card of our deck. Rayquaza, we're going to be talking about a few amazing rares throughout this list, mainly because of the fact that the Lost Zone engine made Amazing Rares good. Amazing Rares were bad because they had such a weird, awkward attack cost that was really difficult to fulfill. So the Lost Zone engine with Mirage Gate made it really possible to make decks with Amazing Rares shine, and Rayquaza saw a little bit of play recently in the past month or so, and it did pretty well for itself. Next up, Snorlax. Huge hit to control. Mewtwo v Union loved this Snorlax, and it utilized Gourmandize to great effect because Gourmandize filling your hand to 7, it's effectively a Giraffe supporter that you can use on your first turn of the game, which you can't typically use. So Gourmandize Snorlax, really good card, really big hit to control decks or any single prize deck that wants to fill up their hand and find their combo pieces. So next up, Cinccino. Cinccino leaving the format isn't the end of the world because we do have a Kirlia, 90 HP, still lovable, searchable, same ability. So is it really that bad, Michael? Kind of. Not really. Cinccino's just Kirlia, but better. It has a better attack, and it has a better basic in Minccino. Minccino has a Call for Family, which Ralts doesn't, so it makes Cinccino a little bit more effective as a board-based draw Pokemon, but not the end of the world that we're losing this Pokemon. Up next, Dark Pokemon, and arguably the worst Pokemon to lose, Crobat VMAX. Crobat V, sorry. Crobat V is so good. It's on play in almost every deck. It's on play in so many decks. Just the ability to dig deep to find the cards you might need, help you set up on your first turn of the game. Once again, another way to draw cards on your first turn of the game, since you can't play Supporter. Just an incredibly good card. I got kicked out. Okay. Be that way, Pokemon. Let's try that again, shall we? Anyways, Crobat V, such a really powerful card, allows you to find what you need. losing this card is going to kind of slow the format down a little bit. You can't get that extra deep dig for the cards you need. Alongside Crobat V is, of course, Crobat VMAX. Saw a good amount of play in Arceus Flying Pikachu decks to counter Mew, as well as hit and run decks with the Stealth Poison attack. So there's the Goon, my main man, the Galarian Zigzagoon. Probably another one of the bigger hits to the format. This card was so pivotal because when you put it from your hand to your bench, it allows you to put 10 damage counters on any of your opponent's Pokemon. It fixes math. That's its big thing. If you hit 270, bam, slap a Goon, 280. There you go. Knocking out V-Stars. It's tag teams, whatever. It's seen so much play. It's such a good card. It's definitely going to hurt some decks to lose this because the math that it is, it's just super beneficial to a lot of decks. So, Hoopa, kind of an honorable mention. It saw a lot of play with the baby Galarian Moltres Hoopa deck, the single prize deck that was running around for a little while to like counter Mew. And Hoopa saw a decent amount of play in that deck. It's just a really good card, you know, punch something, soften it up, hit it for 90, or you know, take a knockout on a single prize Pokemon that has low HP on the first turn of the game. So, card we're losing, not too bad though. Probably not as bad as losing Coughing and Wheezing. Wheezing with the neutralizing gas, gosh, being able to shut off your opponent's ability, ooh, so good. I mean, name a deck that doesn't utilize its abilities. Can you name one? I challenge you to name one. There's probably like one out there, maybe two, like Durant maybe doesn't really utilize its abilities all that much, but like, being able to shut off your opponent's ability is way too good. And the fact that you can just Ascension into it going second and ability lock someone, super duper strong. So losing this card is gonna be, I don't think it's the end of the world, but it didn't see play during Rebels Clash. It saw more play recently more than anything. But yeah, so definitely a solid card that we're losing for sure. Yveltal. We're talking about the amazing rares. I mentioned this earlier. Yveltal is one of the big cards in Lugia because Lugia gets Archeops into play. Archeops accelerates all these different rainbow energies and then just amazing destruction. It deals with stuff that Lugia can't deal with. It just knocks out anything. It's a good single prize attacker. It's so powerful right now. So losing it is going to be a bit detrimental to Lugia specifically. So, oh no, right? There are a lot of Lugia haters out there because Lugia is so dominant right now. Next up, E-Turn 340, one of the biggest Pokemon ever printed. Look at that HP. It's insane. It's ridiculous. Being able to give yourself Skyfield, it does really good math. It saw a lot of play at the beginning of its lifetime when tag teams were around, so it could hit 270. And same with right now. It does the perfect math. It does 270 plus a Goon Ping or a Belt. Bam, you're hitting those perfect numbers to KO V-Stars. So, sad to see it go. I actually really liked Eternatus. I thought it was a really fun and solid deck overall because it even was limiting you to only utilizing Dark Pokemon. So really cool. Last up, another honorable mention when it comes to Dark types. Malamar, I mean, Max Jammer, it was just used in, it's just another friend that Arceus is losing. Arceus loses access to another one of its Dark type buddies. So, not the end of the world, but we're losing a lot of VMAXs, including cards like Colossal and Stonejourner VMAX, which I actually didn't include in here, which I probably should have. You know, this card saw a lot of play at the beginning of its life cycle when stuff was weak to fighting, like Pikarom and E-Turn, but not as much play as recently because there have been stronger fighting types. Stonejourner saw a lot of play because of its ability to just eat hits for days and then heal it off like it was nothing. So moving on into fire types, this is the only one I really felt like was a necessary inclusion because Charizard VMAX didn't see play until the Brilliant Stars format, where we got a better Charizard V, as well as it got a new best friend in Arceus, which made it so much easier to power up finally. Its problem was that it was so difficult to power up, and Arceus just made Charizard VMAX so much better. There was a couple players in my area that absolutely adored Charizard VMAX, so I've played against it quite a bit in my day. Into grass types, Eldegoss. This is like Crobat. We're losing a card that has a great effect when it goes from your hand to your bench. I mean, Happy Match, you Goss for boss, you know? It allows you to get cards back, your supporter cards back from the discard pile. It's essentially Versus Seeker, and Versus Seeker is one of the best cards ever made. So, naturally, Eldegoss is very good. So, losing it is it's a bit unfortunate. It hasn't seen a lot of play lately, but it's still a really good card overall. Up next, Decidueye. Decidueye was so good for a while because it just you couldn't even attack it. but then it really fell off once decks like Mew VMAX and Duraludon came around, because they have a Shred attack which just goes through all effects of it, all abilities. So Decidueye was no longer able to completely deny people damage and prize cards, so it really fell off, but it did really well for quite some time. Up next, the Boomer, Rillaboom. I mean, it has Energy Acceleration. Energy Acceleration is like one of the best things you can do in the Pokemon TCG besides drawing cards. So the fact that you can accelerate 2 energy directly from your deck, ooh, so good. Really good card overall. I mean, really fun. It saw play recently with Regidrago, but other than that, it's seen limited play because grass decks haven't been the most popular. Moving on to electric types, Boltund. Boltund was a staple for a while when it released because of its ability to, who guessed it, accelerate energy. And it did decent damage with Bolt Storm, but it didn't see a lot of play in recent times. It was not as popular as cards like Raikou. Raikou, once again, another amazing rare that Lugia utilizes to great effect. This is a good GLC card, but outside of GLC, it never saw much play until the Lost Zone engine came around. So, up until Lost Origin, Raikou wasn't that prevalent, and Lugia utilizes it to take easy knockouts on multiple single prize Pokemon. So seeing it go is gonna really, it's really gonna take down Lugia's power level a bit for sure. Then there's Vikavolt. Speaking of, we have Boltund V, now Vikavolt V, probably arguably one of the better electric type V Pokemon because Paralyzing Bolt item locks. It recently did really well. It has been doing well because of Regieleki that came out in Silver Tempest, which boosts the damage of electric types. So you go from 50 damage, which is pretty weak, to 80 to 110 plus choice belts. You can really rack up damage and item lock. So Vikavolt, it was okay for a little while, but Regieleki really made this deck a whole lot stronger, especially if you can get turn 1 item locks with an attached Melanie. So definitely something to note for sure. Zekrom, another notable card, mostly because it's seen play recently. Being able to auto-paralyze something is really good, especially right now in a format where not many people are playing switch cards. So you can paralyze it multiple times in a row, deal damage to yourself, and then full heal it off with Emergency Jelly, and do it again! So, really annoying card, really obnoxious, did really well recently in Lightning toolboxes. So, Zeraora, kind of a similar thing. This card was only as good as the format because Pokemon were weak to Lightning like Palkia and Lugia. Zeraora became popular in toolbox style decks that have like a different attacker for different matchups, and so Zeraora did really well in those decks, specifically to counter the meta. Then we have Jolteon, another kind of counter the meta card. When the Inteleon engine was running rampant, and that was like the only way to play your decks, Jolteon having the ability to attach a memory capsule to it and stop your opponent from using their abilities, so good. It completely shut down a lot of Inteleon decks and made it almost impossible for them to play the game since they played a limited amount of a lot of their cards because they're supposed to handpick them out of their deck whenever they need them. So, really cool card, really unique card as well. And I love these kind of, unique abilities that have a chance to shine during specific meta games. So, Steel, we're moving on to the Metal Pokemon. Duraludon is actually losing a lot when rotation hits. It's really good right now still because of Lugia, but it is, we do have another Dragon Duraludon, which is not bad, but the fact that this one takes 30 less damage from attacks, effectively giving it 250 for a basic V, it's good. It's really good. It's really nice just to give that extra HP to potentially survive an attack if your opponent tries to gust around your Arceus into the Duraludon. So, losing this one is a bit unfortunate, but not the end of the world because Duraludon is still Duraludon, and being a Dragon type, it has no weakness, so, the other Duraludon, so it's still not terrible. Then Galarian Meowth. Galarian Meowth has seen a lot of play, but not for the reason you think. The Evolution Roar, being able to discard 2 cards and search for a Galarian Berserker, irrelevant the second part. It's only there to discard cards. A lot of people utilize this, for decks that want to get energy in the discard pile. Discard those. Cards that want to get Pokédex that want to get Pokemon in the discard pile, like Mewtwo v Union. slap this down, discard your V-Union pieces. I mean, any decks that has effects in the discard pile, or a way to get cards from the discard pile, or a special effect in the discard pile, Galarian Meowth was so good in those decks. So a really good, basic 60 HP support Pokemon that was very niche, but very strong. Up next, Zacian. One of the legendary doggos of the Sword and Shield era. I mean, in my opinion, probably one of the strongest Pokemon ever printed. It's just a really big basic that can draw cards, accelerate energy, and do big damage. I mean, we just mentioned 2 of the 3 best things in the Pokemon trading card game, drawing cards and accelerating energy. This card was so good. It saw play with ADP. It saw play as its own deck with like a Steel Doggo deck with like Zacian and Zamazenta because of its ability to tank hits, heal them off with like Crystal Cave, and Brave Blade doing good damage. Now, speaking of Zacian and Zamazenta, we are also losing Zamazenta V with the Dauntless Shield ability. Keep in mind, we still have a Dauntless Shield not a Dauntless Shield. We still have a Zamazenta with the ability that discards your hand and draws cards and has a revenge attack, but we are losing the one that stops VMAXs. Not the end of the world, because we are like a V-Star format, and we are getting EXs soon, so Zamazenta leaving is kind of not terrible. I don't think it's bad that this card is rotating out, but it was definitely really good to counter some decks that couldn't really get past the ability if they only had a VMAX to attack. I mean, Zamazenta was in there. Up next, honorable mention, Gengar. Moving damage counters is an ability we've seen on a lot of Pokemon over the years, but Gengar saw play recently, being able to move damage counters around and then heal them off with the Radiant Serena. So it's something I thought it was notable to mention for sure. Another Psychic type Pokemon, Dragapult. Moment of peace. I love Dragapult. He's one of my favorite Pokemon of all time. I mean, he's such a cool design. He saw a lot of play at the beginning of his lifetime. He fell out of the format because dark types were relevant. And then he came back with Path to the Peak and the Inteleon engine because of his ability to spread damage was really good. So Dragon Ball leaving, unfortunate, but it still has a good home in the expanded format where it has lots of psychic support. Now, one of the biggest hits alongside Crobat is the Drizzy and Inteleon engine. Shady Dealings, being able to handpick cards out of your deck. Oh, trainers, ooh, so good. A lot of people didn't like this because it kind of dominated the format for a long time. Like, if you wanted to play a deck, you had to play the Drizzile engine in it because it was just too good. But I don't think it was all that terrible because Inteleon was really good in a format where stage 2s were arguably terrible. So the fact that these cards were able to make an impact was really interesting. I mean, the biggest hit deck that's going to hurt from losing the Inteleon engine is Palkia, because Palkia really loves being able to hand select whatever they want out of their deck. So this card is going to be a big hit to Palkia, but Palkia is just going to probably move over to a B-Barrel engine, so not the end of the world. Last but not least, when it comes to Pokemon, Frostmoth. Just a solid card. Energy acceleration, really good. Being able to put water energy from your hand to your bench, anywhere. It was just good water support. Plus it evolved from one of the greatest Pokemon ever made, Snom. So it's, it's whatever. It was a really good card. Really good support for water decks for sure. So moving on to trainers. We're losing more stuff for water Pokemon. Being able to put two water energy from your deck in your hand, so good. Now we're not losing Energy Search, so you can still use Irida to grab water Pokemon Energy Search, but it's just a little bit less strong because you can't get 2 energy out of your deck to utilize Palkia, maybe discard 1, use Palkia's ability to accelerate energy. So it's a little bit of a hit to water decks, but I don't think it's going to be super detrimental, although it does hurt a bit. Incense, this is just a good card that we're losing. I mean, it's solid support. Any evolution deck loves this. It's good in Zorobox to be able to grab cards you want out to throw them away. So losing it is going to hurt some decks more than others. There are a lot of decks that just play Ultra Ball. So is it really that bad? No, probably not, but it definitely has seen a lot of play during its lifetime. Hyperpot, I mentioned earlier that Duraludon is taking a big hit, and this is mainly for tank and heal decks that really like utilizing that strategy and being able to heal off big hits. Unfortunately, we are losing Hyperpot, but we still have some other healing cards in the format, although they're just not as strong. Metal Saucer. We are losing some of our strong metal Pokemon like Zashi and Zamazenta, but Dialga V-Star really liked utilizing Metal Saucer. I actually recently utilized Dialga V-Star with the new Clink Clank from Silver Tempest, and it performed extremely well. That was in my last video. I highly recommend you guys check that out. It was a really, really fun deck for sure. But Metal Saucer rotating, not the end of the world, because there aren't a lot of great Metal Pokemon right now. So if there were better Metal Pokemon in the format, I think this card would be a bigger hit than it might feel like. So, up next, Rod. This is a huge card to lose. We have no other Pokemon recovery in the format currently outside of like Rescue Stretcher, which is 90 HP Pokemon or less, and maybe there's another one. Clara, a supporter. But being able to get energy and Pokemon back is just too good. I mean, sometimes you gotta discard Pokemon when you really don't want to, but you kind of have to because you have no other plays. So having a Pokemon recovery card is nice, and I kind of hope they reprint a strong Pokemon recovery card like Rod or something similar to it, like maybe Rescue Stretcher in the future. So Palpad, notable mention for sure. Control decks play this a lot, as well as some decks that just want to recycle the same supporter turn after turn. Really great for being able to just recycle necessary supporters for your archetype. So Pokegear, another big hit. These are hits to consistency. We're losing a lot of decks that are a lot of cards that allow decks to have strong consistency in finding cards like their supporters. Quick Ball is arguably one of the biggest trainer card losses that we're losing because of its ability to find any basic Pokemon. It's so good. It's utilized to discard cards. Like Regigigas likes this card because it likes to discard energy so it can accelerate it from the discard pile. I mean, any deck that wants to do stuff with the discard pile, Quick Ball is such a big hit. We are getting Nest Ball in the format, but at the same time, Quick Ball is just so powerful because Quick Ball works with cards like Lumineon, whereas Nest Ball does not. Now, something to note, I wanted to mention, we do have a Quick Ball that was printed in Fusion Strike. So I mentioned earlier that Battle Styles On was legal, but this still has a Regulation Mark D, so it is not playable even though it's printed Battle Styles On. So up next, Rotom Phone. This is mainly a big hit to Mew. I mean, Mew really likes being able to stack its deck with whatever it wants. Is it the end of the world? No. You can just replace this with something like Trekking Shoes or other good cards. I don't think it's that detrimental to Mew, but it will hurt just a little bit. Scoop Up Net, probably the next worst card to lose. So many decks utilize this to reuse abilities. Let me scoop up my Mew from Celebrations, my Inteleon Engine, my Zigzagoon to reutilize abilities. Now, I know a lot of those cards are rotating, but Scoop Up Net is such a powerful card, and so the fact that you can't net reset abilities anymore might hurt some decks that really lean heavily into Scoop Up Nets, like Lost Zone, for example. Lost Zone might find it way more challenging to get turn 2 Cramorants or turn one going second Cramorants, because you can't more easily recycle your Comfey's abilities, make it harder for you to get those 4 cards into the Lost Zone. So we'll see how that works out. Next up, Tool Scrapper, honorable mention. We have Lost Vacuum in the format, which can get rid of a tool or a stadium, but this one gets rid of 2 tools, so they have different utility, but I thought it was still something to mention for sure. Up next, Yellowhorn, another control card for control. Mewtwo v Union utilizes this. I think Durant plays it. So, I mean, very limited number of decks play it, but it's still a card I wanted to share with you guys. Moving on to Stadium. Scalar Mine, it's all a little bit of play with Leafeon. It's all a little bit of play in control or stall decks, but overall, not the most impactful Stadium. Up next, Glimwood Tangle. I thought this card was so fun. Being able to reflip and utilize attacks that allow you to reflip coins was really cool. It added consistency to those meme decks and made decks that are probably arguably bad a lot better. So really good card for sure. I mean, there was a little Victini that used to be in the format that when it was on your bench, you could reflip coins as well. So I think having one of these cards in the format is definitely pretty healthy and pretty fun for sure. Rose Tower. Now, Rose Tower saw a lot of play in Mew. But once again, I'm going to move on from this quickly because Mew mostly plays Lost City now. So while this was impactful for a very long time, it is not the case. Not the case anymore, really, as where Mew probably only plays one of these and won't mind too much moving on to just another stadium. Training Court, huge hit. So many decks played this. This was the most splashable stadium. You could put this in any deck. You need a counter to Path to the Peak? Put a Training Court in your deck. Don't even play any basic energy? Put a Training Court in your deck. It didn't matter. This card was so good, especially when paired with Radiant Greninja. Radiant Greninja discards an energy, draws cards, and the Training Court allows you to get it back, potentially redo that ability. So it's like, it's unfortunate that we're losing Training Court because it was so impactful and so splashable in so many decks. Up next, another honorable mention, Turffield. Really good in just any grass deck. It's a free evolution incense, so solid overall. So when it comes to supporters, we're not losing that many. Birdkeeper has a nice effect of a switch and draw. It's seen a decent amount of play. It's not been like the most prevalent draw supporter, but it has seen play or one-ofs in a lot of decks. Much like Leon. Not crazy, super duper important card, but like Zigzagoon, works in some decks very specifically to help fix math. And because of that, Leon made some decks so much better than they could possibly be, because before you hit, oh, I only do 250, I need to do 280. Bam, slap a Leon in your deck. It's perfect. Choice Belt or Leon, you had more counts of cards that gave you more chances to take those KOs that you needed to take to really get you ahead in the game. Last supporter, Marnie, no one cares, good riddance, goodbye, and moving on. So, I gotta be honest, I think it's one of the worst cards Pokemon has ever printed. It's an obnoxious card. It's disruptive. It made it so difficult to play the game because a lot of people play this as a 4-of supporter in their decks. I mean, hand disruption is fine. I don't mind hand disruption in cards like N or something Judge, but with those cards, you shuffle draw, so you can potentially redraw into those big combo pieces or those cards you might need. Whereas Marty just puts it to the bottom and says no, just no. And it was so obnoxious to constantly get Marnied out of hands that were, of high value, really actually helped me play the game. So I can't tell you how many times Marty has given me just an absolute brick of a hand. Good riddance, don't care, and I hope that we never see a card like this again. Honestly, I really, really do. Now, next up is tool cards. Before we talk about tool cards, let's move back over to the website real quick. The Pokemon website, I want to show you guys something. Another change that's going to be happening in the Scarlet Violet era. So, another big change that I want to mention that is coming in the Scarlet Violet era is that tools are no longer item cards. They're specifically called Pokemon tool cards. They're their own classification like supporter or item card, but they're no longer item, they're tools. They're their own thing. So they have an example right here which states you can't grab your tools off cards like Pokestop. You hit Pokestop and bam, just like that, you no longer can get tool cards off of your Pokestop, which can be a little hurtful. But on the positive side, you can't get item locked by something like Vikable, and you now can't retreat your Pokemon. You can still attach an air balloon to it and manually retreat, whereas before you couldn't do that. So, I mean, the fact that they're becoming specifically tool cards and no longer item cards, very interesting. It's going to be impactful for cards like Irida, because Irida can no longer grab you that tool card that you need. So, something very interesting to note for the future. We're losing a lot of really interesting trainer or item cards. Air Balloon, I like having a pivot card in the format, like Floatstone. I mean, Air Balloon is just worse Floatstone, but not having that pivot every turn is gonna hurt a lot of decks for sure, because you can leave something in the active with an Air Balloon, and then you can do whatever you need to do and make the appropriate pivot, so you don't have to commit to one option all the time. Up next, Big Charm. Big Charm is a big loss for sure. I also want to group Big Charm in with Cape of Toughness. Just ways to get your Pokemon bigger, give them more HP, get them out of range of some big attacks. So helpful. A lot of decks utilize these cards, so to see these cards go is gonna hurt a little bit alongside Big Parasol. Now, Big Parasol leaving the format is good for decks like Giratina, because the only reason this card saw play during its lifetime is because of cards like Giratina and Yveltal Amazing Rare. So the fact that it's going, yeah, it's going to make Giratina a little better, but Giratina is also getting nerfs in the format as well with some other cards it's losing. We also have Curse Shovel. Just want a brief mention because Durant likes to use this card. Extra ability to mill. So mill decks don't like this, don't like losing this as much. We also have the Memory Capsule, which I talked about with Jolteon earlier. So another hit, but not the end of the world. It's specifically here for the Jolteon. We're also losing Telescopic Sight. So extra damage to bench V and GX Pokemon is always so good. It saw play with Urshifu, VMAX, Rapid Strike. At the same time, we're getting EXs in the format. So losing Sight isn't the end of the world because it doesn't affect EX Pokemon. So, you know, positive, negative, right? Now, Special Energy. This is huge. This is up there with Quick Ball and Crobat. I mean, we're losing so much good Special Energy, and this really hurts a lot of decks. Aurora Energy specifically just destroys both Lugia and Regigigas. The Regi deck likes to utilize this to attack with a plethora of different Regis, and Lugia likes to use this to accelerate onto the Amazing Rares to be able to utilize a bunch of different unique attacks. So losing Aurora is going to be really... It's going to hurt a lot of decks because you don't have that Rainbow Energy in the format that helps you pull off certain strategies. You also have Capture Energy, probably one of the biggest special energies that we're losing. I love Capture, man. I mean, just the fact that you can have added consistency to your deck in the form of an energy, ooh, it's just too good. So, Capture Energy, losing it, it's going to hurt because it's like Quick Ball on an energy. It's so strong, except you don't have to discard. It's Nest Ball on an energy, actually. So really good. Hate to see it go, but maybe we'll get reprint. We had a card like this before in the past, so maybe we'll get another one like it in the future. Coating Metal. We're just one of the special energies I wanted to bunch in with all these because we are losing a lot of good ones like Coating Metal, Heat Fire, just extra HP is really good. This saw play in Lugia to help accelerate special energy via Archeops, alongside Hiding Dark to help Yveltal get powered up quicker. Hiding Dark's also pretty hurtful to a lot of dark decks that like to play Galar Mind plus Hiding Dark, so losing those is going to sting a little bit for those decks specifically. Horse Psychic, it didn't see a lot of play. It saw a little bit of play in any Psychic decks like Dragapult, for example. There was also Powerful. Oh, this is a big one. This is what makes Lugia as strong as it really is. I mean, the fact that Lugia can do 280 turn 2 to the active Pokemon is all thanks to Powerful Energy. So the fact that we're losing Powerful Energy, as well as the Amazing Rares, as well as the Rainbow Energies, I mean, Lugia is going to get a lot less powerful. And, I mean... It's definitely, it might be power crept, and we're getting a lot of good lightning Pokemon as well when the Scarlet Violet set drops. So we'll have to see how the format is really shaken up once Lugia loses a lot of its power. We also have Speed Lightning, another good card utilized in a lot of lightning decks like Vikavolt, or even Regis like this deck as well. Regis like this card because it's just extra draw. Being able to draw cards, we mentioned this earlier, one of the best things in the game. Drawing cards is good, so being able to attach to a lightning Pokemon and draw cards is just too good to ignore. You've also got Stone Fighting, making your fighting Pokemon a lot tankier, so losing this is a little hit to fighting decks, but not the end of the world because this card doesn't see a crazy amount of play. Twin Energy. Ooh, Twin Energy's big. Twin Energy hurts a lot of decks, more specifically single prize decks, because this works on non-V or GX Pokemon like Zorobox. So Zoroark Box likes to use Twin and Double Turbo, but it's the only like double Cutlass Energy we have in the format. So the fact that we're going down to only one type of double Cutlass Energy, and that being Double Turbo, is really going to hurt Zorobox decks or single prize decks that like to use these Twin Energy, these single energy attachment, and go. So we'll see how those decks adapt. Maybe we start playing Raihans with basic energies to help get that going. Who knows? We'll see what happens when April hits. And last but not least, Wash Energy. So Wash Energy is mainly utilized to counter Giratina or Yveltal. It mainly saw play in Kyurem. That's pretty much its limited use. So, I mean, like I said, I just wanted to shed some light on it because it has seen play during its lifetime. So my cat Hammy decided he wanted to join me for the outro today. So say hi to Hammy, everybody. He's the real star of the show. We already know this, guys. But if you liked the video, drop a like down below and subscribe to the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching. And you guys like this informational type of content, definitely let me know in the comment section down below so I can make more content you guys want to see. Maybe if you want me to go over some of the leaked cards or the revealed cards that we're going to be getting from future sets, just let me know down below and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.